everybody, welcome to CAF WARBIRD TUBE, the show where we talk about World War II, aviation, history, and so much more. WARBIRD TUBE is produced by the Commemorative Air Force, the world's largest flying museum. Our mission is to educate, inspire, and honor through flight and living history experiences. The CAF began the WARBIRD movement more than 65 years ago, and thanks to the support of individuals like you, we continue to grow strong. We hope you enjoyed this episode, and now our host, Steve Buss. Thanks for watching and keep 'em flying.
Good evening and welcome to episode number 104 of CAF WARBIRD TUBE. Before we get started, please do us a favor if you haven't already done so. Just take a second to like, share, subscribe, and follow us. And if you do subscribe on YouTube, also click that bell icon. You'll get notifications about new episodes of WARBIRD TUBE as they're released. We're trying a little different format in the show tonight, so when all is said and done, let us know what you think. Tonight, a restoration update on Airbase Georgia's Fairchild PT-19. And to kick things off is Airbase leader Joel Perkins.
Welcome everyone to Airbase Georgia. I'm Joel Perkins, the Airbase Georgia leader. I'm very excited to share the progress Airbase Georgia is making on the restoration of our PT-19. The PT-19 is extremely unique because we have documentation that it was assigned to Moton Field during World War II, where it was used to train the Tuskegee Airmen. Our goal here is to restore and repaint the PT-19 so that it closely resembles the aircraft when it was delivered to Moton Field, Alabama in '43. The Airbase Georgia PT-19 restoration team has been diligently working since last year, and we look forward to unveiling the aircraft this spring. We also appreciate the encouragement of all our supporters and invite everyone to follow our progress on Facebook and Instagram.
Next, we hear from George Harrison. He's a check pilot on the PT-19. He'll talk a little bit more about the role of the trainer in pilot training during World War II.
Hello, I'm George Harrison. I'm one of the Airbase Georgia instructor pilots and check pilots on the PT-19 aircraft. I'll talk a little bit about the airplane so that you understand why we think this airplane is significant and important from a variety of aspects. First of all, it's a primary trainer, and it was used as the first airplane that a young man would fly when he came into the Army Air Forces. It's used by the Air Forces only, not by the Navy. It's a two-seat, fore and aft. The instructor sits in the back, the student sits in the front. It's fully acrobatic and is capable of teaching all the basic maneuvers that a young pilot's going to require. I should also mention, by the way, that the other primary trainer used by the Army Air Forces was the PT-17. A young man would only fly one of those aircraft, either the PT-13, 17 or this PT-19. So the PT-19, you may recall that during World War II, we had a shortage of strategic materials, aluminum, steel, those kinds of things. You may have even heard about scrap metal drives to collect up materials to build war machines. As a result of that, the Army Air Forces and the Navy, to the extent possible, built their non-combat airplanes out of non-strategic materials. So this airplane is made out of plywood. The fuselage is steel tube and fabric, and the wings are plywood stringers and ribs covered with very thin plywood. It turns out to be a very strongly constructed airplane and was very robust. Now, this particular airplane is important to us because it has a historic significance beyond the fact that it was used as a World War II trainer. This airplane, and we have documented the fact that this airplane was delivered to Tuskegee, Alabama by presidential directive, President Roosevelt's directive, with the strong encouragement of his wife Eleanor, established an experimental program to show that black aviators were just as capable, just as usable in the war effort as any other ethnic variety of aviators. So this airplane is an original Tuskegee airplane. It was used at Tuskegee, Alabama in 1943 and 1944. Additionally, we believe that we've documented the fact that this airplane was delivered from the factory to Tuskegee by a female pilot, a WASP, Women's Air Service pilot.
One of the things I found most interesting about this project is that Airbase Georgia has assigned a project manager to help keep the restoration moving toward its completion date before Memorial Day. Joining me next is Tom Thompson. Joining us now from Airbase Georgia is Tom Thompson. He's the project manager for the PT-19. Tom, good to have you on the show. And tell us a little bit about your background and how you got involved with Airbase Georgia and the PT-19 project.
Oh, sure. So I was in the Air Force for 23 years. I enlisted right out of high school. I was a load master on C-141s. And after about 12 years, I finished my degree and I went to OTS and I was a transportation officer. So I've always been in logistics. Probably 5 or 6 years ago, started going down to Peachtree City to, just a great group of people down there. I didn't, like a lot of people, I didn't realize that somebody would let you touch the airplanes, right? So the first day I was down there, I asked if anybody needed anything done. They said I could, polish the canopy on the P-51, and so like like going back to when you were 10 years old, never thought of doing that. So over the years, I've tried to learn more about the maintenance side. Took some classes from Embry-Riddle and, trying to log the A&P hours and see when, it's a little at a time, but we'll see where that gets me. So, I've worked a little bit on most of the aircraft there, just trying to help out.
Awesome. Well, now your experience is pretty. Speaking of awesome, is a pretty awesome one. And it's like, here, Tom, go polish the P-51 Mustang canopy on your first day. And I hope things have continued to go up from there. But when you're getting involved with the Airbase Georgia down there, it's just south of Atlanta. Did you have anyone who was like a mentor or kind of took you under their wing and helped show you around and kind of help bring you into the fold?
No, everybody, there's a different crew chief on each aircraft. So I think, and they're all willing to teach you and let you help. The person that used to be the P-51 crew chief, Larry Combs, was very open to letting me help. And really, even on this PT-19 project, I can't say enough about the maintenance officer, Randy Hawkins, who is, he keeps all these very diverse aircraft, kind of keeps all the balls up in the air, but still has time to teach people that have, very little background in the aircraft, and especially we can talk about the fabric covering skills. He's just so open with his time, and they're calling me the project manager, but honestly, I just make sure we do whatever is up to Randy's standards.
Yep. What drew you to the PT-19 project?
It was something that I saw needed to be done. I had worked a little bit on the Stearman, and that was going pretty well. And we took down the flying for the PT-19 last January, and it sat a little bit till we could get some space and that sort of thing. And I just kind of saw a need there that somebody needed to drive it a little bit. So, I told those guys I would, told Chris I would, do articles for for our own newsletter, take pictures, try to coordinate the people, and because I'm still working full time, so I'm not down there all the time, but at least I could try to coordinate volunteers and maybe parts gathering and that sort of stuff in the background so people could keep going on the project.
Well, and that is the true definition of the project manager is, managing the team, making sure the team has everything they need in place so they can do their work. But so many projects kind of go off the rails because isn't someone like you kind of keeping an eye on all the details. So I think it's maybe a lesson learned to other units in doing restoration, that having someone who's a project manager might not be a bad idea, just to kind of keep things on track.
Right. So I saw your background. Were you a PMP?
I'm not a PMP.
Okay. I had the certification for
Oh,
a
you do?
while.
Okay.
I don't anymore, but I think that's probably how my mind works, like kind of seeing what the chunks are and looking further ahead than the person that's just got their hands on the project itself, at that day or that week.
Right. Yeah, it is. It's a fascinating business to be in, is keeping all those logistics moving forward. What's the current status of the airplane?
So well, I get feedback, like you mentioned. So I had heart surgery about a month ago, and I haven't been down there, but the guys have been giving me feedback. So, with the wings off, those were being recovered separately. Um, it's pretty obvious that the center section of the wing and the fuselage were separately constructed and then put together, and we're not removing the center section, during this restoration. So to answer your question, the wings are recovered, and they've had some repairs as well. So the wings are recovered. Just yesterday, they put the first primer coat on the wings, and the center section and the fuselage are together, and they're just now starting to work on the center section for the covering. And again, it's a little trickier because it's not off aircraft, so you have to think through how they're going to do that. As far as the tail feathers, the rudder did not have to be recovered. The the vertical stabilizer is repaired and covered, and the horizontal stabilizer is being recovered. All the control surfaces have been recovered.
Okay. Hey, you mentioned the fabric covering and doing the fabric covering work. Have you had an opportunity to get hands-on with that? So on this project?
That's been really great. Randy had a class last spring for several of us, and that had to do with the Stearman as well. And so, yeah, I mean, at first there was only a couple of us. So we started with a trim tab, and, we just kind of worked our way up to bigger parts after that. So that's been a great learning experience. We're using a product called Stewart Systems. So as you know, kind of back in the day, there was the dope and fabric method. We use a completely modern method now of polyester fabric, and again, this product called Stewart Systems. It just kind of basically like your model airplanes, you glue it around the edges, you glue the fabric down, and then you hit it with an iron to tighten it up, and then you thin out the same glue and cover the whole surface with that, and that gives the weave some strength. And so that's all waterborne. So there's no danger to all of our volunteers. It's easy to clean up. It's easy to thin. The only thing with the waterborne is you have to make sure that the temperature in the area is warm enough that it'll dry correctly.
Do you still have to stitch ribs using this method?
Sure. Yeah. So I learned that we had classes on that as well. And again, lots of patience, but there's it's 2023, right? So you can go online and look at videos for all that stuff. So that was really helpful as well. And the same with the Stewart Systems website, has a whole library of videos that helped us, learn more about how to use the product.
Awesome. Any final thoughts before we wrap this segment up?
No, just like to thank all the other volunteers. It's not me, and we've been really lucky with, for whatever reason, a lot of the volunteers that have stepped forward for this project are new to the airbase. And so that's been, really great. Sometimes it's hard to get people involved, or people that are new don't know where to step in. And some of them are A&Ps, some of them have never worked on airplanes before. And we have two new pilot sponsors because they've seen the progress and they've jumped right in there and have done a lot of hands-on work too. So I'd like to thank all of them. And again, if I could, just mention that Randy has coordinated all that, and he's been so generous with his time.
Very good, and good to hear that you've got not only new people coming into the Airbase Georgia, but also that you're putting them to work right away, because that's one thing that will retain members, is if they have a feeling of belonging and a sense of purpose. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I thought when they came in they'd all turn right and go to the P-47, but I got a few people to turn left and come learn fabric work and so forth.
Very good, very good. Tom, great to have you on this segment. Keep going on your recovery, and a speedy recovery. We'll hope to see you back at full speed real soon, and of course we'll look to see the PT-19 back in the air.
Thanks, Steve. I enjoy your videos on YouTube.
Thanks. Airbase Maintenance Officer Randy Hawkins will talk a little more in depth about the restoration that's taking place with their PT-19.
Hi, I'm Randy Hawkins. I'm the maintenance officer at Airbase Georgia, where we are today. I'm here to talk about our PT-19, which is behind us. The PT-19 is a 1941 trainer. It is widely used throughout the CF right now, and we had something happen during COVID with the airplane. Is that two of the guys that are members did a deep dive on its history. Had the time to do it since we weren't flying, and they discovered and proved through logbook entries that this was actually a Tuskegee airplane, Tuskegee trainer. The airplane had been a regular daily flyer. It's in real good shape, but the fabric was getting not unairworthy, but it was getting pretty ugly. You get the fabric with some oil on it, and it gets saturated, and after many years, you just can't clean it, and you can't just paint over it. The oil will keep it from sticking. So we decided with that heritage that we would go and clean it up a little bit, and in doing so we'd replace the fabric, which we are in the process of doing. The airplane itself is got wood wings that have a fabric covering on them. The fabric itself we're using is a Seconite, and we're using Stewart systems to apply it. That's a WARBIRD WARBIRD system, which allows us to work as long as the temperature is above 65, and it doesn't have any fumes. It's not a MEK-based system. The airplane itself has the Ranger engine in it behind me right here, and the Ranger, this engine has less than 100 hours on it. We have a new climb prop on the airplane, which really helps it get off the ground, especially in the hotter days of Georgia when we're giving a ride to somebody. The rest of the structure and all has already been inspected deeply for an annual, which it also needed at the time. And with that said, the last flight control is being covered in the back in the shop by one of our mother and daughter teams with my oversight, and I'm teaching them how to do these things. The process is very nice to work with. Said enough about that. This airplane has upgraded radios in it. Like all our airplanes, we try to put a better radio in it for safety reasons. The pilot's communication with the ADS-B and visibility to other aircraft, and the same with our airplane being visible to those other airplanes. We do a lot of local and maybe just one state away rides with these things to different air show events or other wing gatherings. It's something that they enjoy doing quite a bit. The restoration we started a year ago. We really got rolling on it in this last few months. The flying season stopped. The weather changed. We had folks that instead of going all over the place with the airplanes, were staying here, and we finally got some good labor on them. and it's been a real proving ground. There's been a large more number of people working on the airplanes helping out, which wouldn't in the past have joined in. It kind of scared them to do fabric work and things, but it's really quite easy. The beauty of this is that we've also gained new licensed mechanics that have come in, and they're working hand in hand also in the same format with overseeing and training and letting other people just get their hands dirty a little bit. So with that said, we'll probably return this to service in the next month at the most. Everything, the wings are ready to do final paint on, and this is going to be what it was back with the Tuskegees. It was a silver airplane. We stopped painting them yellow and blue at a certain date. Mainly, my guess is that because the high visibility wasn't that necessary as compared to just keeping the airplanes flying, and they're probably breaking as fast as they were building them back then. But it's been silver, and it was painted with the Randolph paints back in 1986 was the last time this had any paint on it, new per the logbook entries. This part that I'm holding vertical just doesn't weigh very much. Had been called in a couple of different publications that were put out about its restoration as the turtle back. Well, this is the belly panel, so it's kind of not a turtle deck, which is a lot smaller and goes on top and is removable. But this goes underneath the belly, and it is fabric covered. It's all Sitka spruce and plywood, and it goes underneath like this in the back of the airplane, which you're probably not seeing. Anyway, the inside of it, you can see the stringers and how everything's adhered, and this is still in this is still the green glue of the storage systems, but the charcoal gray is the ultraviolet protection and filler, and we have another coat of filler to put on here, but we just spray it on and then do light sanding and make sure all the tapes are nice and even. Anyway, we put that back up so it doesn't get destroyed. These are the wings. The wings are put together with Sitka spruce ribs, and then the whole thing is covered with sheet plywood. It's 3-layer plywood. It's mahogany on the outside with cross grain of poplar on the middle. They are covered with a very lightweight cloth called sailplane cloth. It's actually 1.7 ounce per square yard of fabric, and it is there just for aerodynamic smoothness. That's all it's there for. This bottom of the wing, drain holes for water. Don't want water in wood. And these little things down here have a nickname of seaplane drains. They act as a little venturi to pull moisture out when it's flying. This is an aileron cove right here, so the ailerons will be put on the hinges points here, and then the flap is actually on the center section, stub wing, and it completes itself right here. So this little part's also where the flap hides, and the whole thing is attached with 4 large bolts to the center section, stub wing, and with that, push rods are there for the aileron, and there's electrical for nav lights and whatnot, and this will all get finished in a better. Right now, this is all just the ultraviolet coat we did on about 3 days ago. This we're showing here is the fabric removed from the fuselage. In the airplane, the stringers are metal. This is where the fabric would attach to the upper side of the right-hand fuselage, wrap around the fabric, and then wrap around the lower longeron, basically. And these are square tube, which is interesting. Push rods you can see for the elevator are here. There's cables inside for the trim system. Push rod disconnected from the stick that's removed right here. And there's this top side from about here, where the cockpit starts, back will have what's called the turtle deck on it. And it's removable, just has some screws holding it on, because it's a trainer and it lets you get inside and you have to adjust something or replace something real easy.
And we look forward to seeing the Airbase Georgia PT-19 back in the air in time to be part of the Molten Field celebration coming up Memorial Day weekend. If you'd like more information on Airbase Georgia, just visit their website, airbasegeorgia.org. And if you'd like to follow the restoration of the PT, the Stearman, the P-47, and all the other aircraft that are housed at Airbase Georgia, just find them on Facebook. CAF Airbase Georgia. CAF Airbase Georgia. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Again, don't forget to click that like, subscribe, or follow button so we can let you know about future shows. And speaking of future shows, if you have an idea for a topic you'd like to hear about, send Leah Block an email at media@cafhq.org. Until next time, from the Commemorative Air Force, I'm Steve Buss. Have a good night.